Is DuckDB the new hotness and SQLite the old and busted? Should we take all of our use of SQLite and throw it away and rush to a new tool? Is the hype really worth believing? Is it the case that if we have datasets that don't fit into memory, we should be using DuckDB instead of many of the other tools that are available to us? Well, that is exactly what we're here to talk about today in our session on investigating the hype relating to tools like DuckDB. I want to help you think about new tools, but like with any review, I can't tell you definitively whether this is a tool that you should be using in your work, and without exhaustive use of a very mature tool, it's very difficult for us to say whether this is a tool that will really stand the test of time. Instead, what I want to do is I want to introduce you to this tool that we call DuckDB, show you its primary motivating use cases, perform just a small amount of evaluation to identify is there something here that's worth looking into, and to add in some qualifications for things that are worth looking into further. Really, the question we want to answer for ourselves today is it worth looking into DuckDB at all, or should I wait? Is it something that might eventually be useful for my work, or is it the case that it's all hype? And I think we can confidently answer that question in today's session. Now, just to give you a sense of how I put together this investigation of DuckDB, we're working off of the latest version of DuckDB. As of this presentation, DuckDB hasn't yet hit version 1.0, whatever that may signify to you in terms of its maturity. We're at version 0.9.0. I'm going to compare DuckDB against other tools that you might use for similar use cases, specifically SQLite, as well as in-memory data analysis tools like pandas. If you're curious about the exact versions that we're using, this is about the exact versions. I think except for the version of DuckDB, the other versions are not altogether that interesting. It is very much the case that pandas, Postgres, and SQLite are very mature tools that have really stood the test of time. And the real question is DuckDB a potential contender, if not today, at some point in the near future? Now, as with all presentations, we want to get our bearings first. And when we talk about DuckDB, we need to understand what it is that we're talking about. SQLite is a very apropos similarity or comparison to make, in part because DuckDB and SQLite share one fundamental similarity. That is to say, they are both in-process database tools. What that means is we're talking about an SQL database, but that SQL database does not have a separate running server somewhere that I connect to over a Unix domain socket or over a port. Consequently, this also means that there aren't really DBAs, there isn't an operational cost, there isn't the management of, oh, did somebody vacuum the database today? Is the database being replicated properly? Instead, what we're talking about is a database product that exists as part of the running process that you have, whether it is a Go program, a C or C++ program, or in this case, a Python script. And so to get my bearings, I can do the same thing that I do anytime that I'm trying to identify if some database API works. I can execute a statement of SQL against this database, in this case against an actual file on disk that represents this database, and see the results. And here the SQL I'm going to execute is just a select one. If you look at this code, this looks very similar to what you would write with SQLite. In fact, I can swap out the imports here, and this code will give me the exact same results. But as we'll discover, SQLite and DuckDB vary in many ways. In fact, even their Python APIs are actually quite different. Now, when we talk about DuckDB, we're often talking about it not from the perspective of, Postgres was too much work. I had to hire some DBAs. I had to manage the ongoing installation. Every so often, the database would go down, or I'd have to call my operations people to bring it back up. And there are all these other considerations. Instead, DuckDB is often spoken about in terms of tail-end analytical tools, very similar to tools like pandas. But where a distinction is made, where pandas is what we might call an in-core data analysis tool, and DuckDB is what we might call an out-of-core data analysis tool. Well, here's a couple of just benchmark sizes for us to get our bearings. When we talk about how much memory a machine might have, I think it's reasonable for us to include not only the actual desktop and laptop computers that we do the majority of our work on, or even the server machines that do the majority of our production work, but also cheap cloud VMs where we may do a lot of prototyping, or where, for whatever reason, our infrastructure may be set up to use. It may be set up to spin up a very small, very cheap $50 a month, $100 a month, even $1,000 a month, whatever your budget is, cloud VM. And for those cloud VMs, I would say 4 gigs of RAM and about 100 gigs of hard drive space is considered to be just about reasonable. Which means when we talk about an out-of-core data set, we'd be talking about something that is significantly larger than a couple of gigs of RAM, which is not a particularly high bar to hit, especially considering that of those 4 gigs of RAM, some of those are dedicated to the operating system, any other processes that need to run, maybe any machinery for Docker, so you can spin up a Docker container, and so forth and so on. So you only have a portion of that, maybe let's say a fourth of that, to actually use for your underlying data sets. When we talk about consumer-grade machine, which is likely to be the grade of machine that you do your actual work on, despite it being a consumer-grade machine, what I see is most companies purchase for their employees more or less Dell Optiplex-style machines, which may be a little bit beefier, but are really differentiated mostly in terms of their management technologies, not so much in terms of their actual specs. And so I think for a consumer-grade machine, you can probably get 64 gigs of RAM pretty easily. I have a couple of machines that I recently bought, all of which are under £1 and all have 64 gigs of RAM, and a 4 terabyte hard drive is about reasonable. So we're talking about significantly larger data sets, but still data sets that are in the gigabyte size. When we talk about a server-grade machine, the really, really expensive ones that only the companies have the budget to purchase, we're talking about a machine with multiple terabytes of RAM. I've seen server machines with 12 or more terabytes of RAM. And we're talking about machines with enormous access to disk space, up to petabytes of disk space. And so when we talk about out of core, for a server-grade machine, that's probably more data than I can fit on my consumer-grade machine's hard drive. So it's a little bit fuzzy what we mean for the distinction between in-core and out-of-core. And obviously, these numbers are growing every single day. So what constitutes an in-core data set today definitely is not going to be what an in-core data set is tomorrow. It's going to be maybe one level down. What constitutes a consumer-grade machine's in-core data set might be what you can get from a cloud VM provider, if they feel a little bit of pressure on their margins at some point in the near future. Do note, for some of the tools that we use every day, there are limitations that are not hardware-based limitations. Specifically, for Postgres, you have a maximum size for any one table of 32 terabytes. So even though you might have enough RAM to fit that entire table into memory, even though you might have enough disk space to fit many multiples of that table, well, one table can only have a certain size. From this, we might think about a couple of distinctions. We talk about tools that are in-core tools, like pandas. If you do not have enough RAM, your pandas data frames cannot exceed a certain size. We talk about out-of-core tools like DuckDB or SQLite or Postgres, where if you don't have enough disk space, well, your database is going to fall over and it's going to say there's no more disk space for me to operate. And there is, in fact, a third tier, which we won't talk about, which are distributed databases. Databases which are so large, they can't even fit onto one machine. These are data sets that might require clusters of machines in order to operate, or even supercomputing clusters. And those are somewhat outside of the scope of our discussion, because I think for most of us, that is somewhat esoteric. It's outside of the scope of the kinds of data sets that we look at. You might be talking about things like maybe tick series level data across many years for thousands of tickers. But even then, you can find some way to partition that so you can fit that into maybe one machine, or you can fit what you want to look at into one machine. Now, outside of that, I would say, maybe for the out-of-core, for the distributed, we might talk about data lakes. That may be something that we interact with a lot, tools like Hadoop. But largely, we'll discover that if we try and do some analysis across that data lake, it's going to take some specialized work. It's otherwise going to be very slow, because we're talking about things which can't even fit onto one single machine. Now, with that said, it's a little bit tricky for us to simulate the limitations that we might have for an in-core versus an out-of-core tool. And so, not for the purposes of any of the examples that I show you, but if you're curious to investigate, what happens when I start running out of memory in my droplets without ever actually having to do that? What happens when I start running out of memory in my AWS VMs, whatever the case may be, in my Docker containers? You could use something like ulimit that limits the total amount of virtual memory. And a very simple example also kind of shows you where our starting point is for the amount of memory that we assume to be able to do anything in Python. Here you can see that if I try and run a process with no virtual memory, well, I can't even exec the Python process. I can't even do Python and print the version number. I need about 10 megabytes or so of memory to even run Python in the first place. And this is a Python program that doesn't even do anything interesting, just prints out its version number. In order for me to import tools like pandas or NumPy, I probably need on the order of about 400 megabytes of memory. Because if I reduce it too far, you can see I start getting memory errors. Tools like pandas and NumPy actually take up quite a bit of memory when they're loaded into RAM. These are very large libraries. And so when we talk about an in-core data set, we're really talking about a data set that fits into memory on a machine that is already assumed to be fairly large. Not a microcontroller, but probably a Docker container or a consumer-grade machine, if not something larger.